الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله قال الله عز وجل بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون وقال يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي من محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار اللهم اجرنا من النار. My brothers and sisters, alhamdulillah for the day of Jum'ah. And just before I continue, I just want to confirm, I should have done this before, that we're going to end the Salah at 2:05. Is that correct? Someone can give me a thumbs up. Brother Ahmed in the back. Okay, until someone says something, inshallah, I'll go until then. We have a topic today, my brothers and sisters, but first I'd like to remind us that we start with the praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We remember that our lives are meaningless unless we have Islam. And Umar radiallahu anhu, the leader of the believers, at one point, what did he say? Al-Muslim laysa lahu izza illa bil-Islam. The Muslim has no honor except with Islam. In many communities we say, I'm an engineer, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm whatever I am, and this brings honor. But in reality, when we die, none of it matters. Because Allah will not say, subhanahu wa ta'ala, lawyers here, doctors here, waiters in the back. It's not like this. Will He say, subhanahu wa ta'ala, Pakistanis here, Somalis here? It doesn't matter. What matters is our tawheed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the oneness in Allah. And everything else is nonsense. And I'm not calling your culture nonsense, but we'll say secondary, to rephrase. And we remind ourselves that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was sent as the last and final messenger to our ummah, and he is the best of examples. So when people think, what is the meaning of life? You hear this a lot. Or on podcasts, what is the meaning of life? to be kind, to be nice, to make a difference. These are just, we're making meanings out of our own desires. When in reality, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسِ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Our meaning in life is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as He said. And not according to my desires and what I say on the minbar or your desires. I think we should do this, and I think we already have the playbook from the hadith, from Quran, and it's very clear. Now my brothers and sisters, the topic of today is marriage. Because we know, I see a lot of brothers smiling. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help you all. I know it is a big, test. Because man and woman, we both have our desires, we both have our tests. And it's winter now, alhamdulillah, people are putting on a little more clothes. But when we're here in the summer, may Allah help you all, you see things. It happens, you see things. And then you're thinking, may Allah help me, And then you see things again. So maybe we see 100 times in a day. And you look down, and sometimes there's advertisements on the ground. And you look up, and there's a billboard. And you look to the left, haram. You look to the right, and you say, Ya Allah, only if I could, walk like this. So these are the struggles that we're going through. You are not going through the struggle yourself. All of you, without exception, have some sort of struggle, even if you are married. They say all your problems will be fixed once you're married. It's not true. You will still have desires once you are married. Why do I say this? If I tell someone to stop smoking, you don't say stop smoking is haram. Did you really help them? What are you supposed to do? The Prophet ﷺ, the nasiha he would give an alternative. Do not smoke, maybe have sunflower seeds instead, just to keep your hands busy. Do not commit zina, maybe fast. There's always an alternative. Do not take an interest loan, save up money to buy your car cash, whatever it is. There always has to be an alternative. We can't just say, fear Allah, look down. Okay, but there has to be an alternative. So we're going to go over this. And inshallah, I believe I have until 1:05, if that's correct. 1:05, inshallah. I'm going to give you some practical stories, inshallah. If you see me looking down, it's just to my clock. So, some practical stories. My brothers and sisters, we're going through not only a COVID pandemic, we saw that, but a pandemic of marriage. Because I remember a brother who went to this school, and his mom said, finish your bachelor degree, we'll get you married. He finished a bachelor's. She said, what's better than a bachelor's? A master's. Waited another 2 years. He got his master's. True story. What if they call you doctor? He's like, subhanAllah, So he got his doctorate. And around the time when he graduated, his mom called him. I promise you, true story. Go to Pearson Airport and your wife is waiting for you. He didn't know who she was. He didn't, So don't ask around to find out who this person is. It was a long time ago. But the point is, there's ways to do things, and you don't need to wait long time. Ask your parents, turn the Uno card, right? The Uno card, turn the Uno card to your parents. And just out of conversation, don't argue. What did you have when you first got married? How much money did you have? Did you have a house? Did you have this? Did you have that? And maybe they say, yes, I had a house. When my mom first came to the country, on her street, a house was $27,000. Now the parking lot driveway to pavement is $27,000. So you can't be, expecting a house in this different time. We have to be realistic. So I'm going to give you a bunch of little stories. A good friend of mine said, I'm trying to get married, but my parents say my expectations are too high. And it is true. Generally, I don't know about the sisters, but we'll speak about the brothers. They have high expectations. I want her to have this and this, and we're thinking, man, no offense, but if you're a 7, take a 7, maybe an 8. Maybe if you're lucky for love, let's you take something a little higher. But we have to be realistic. Correct? So I asked the brother, what are you looking for? Because his parents said impossible. He said, I want a girl who prays, fasts, reads the Quran sometimes, and wears hijab. That's all. They said impossible. And I was so astonished. So my lesson to you from the story, don't lower your standard. Where it's like, if she stands and she's a nice person, then I'm good with her. That's my standard. We need higher standards, but we need to be realistic, of course. We'll go over the 3 criteria after, inshallah ta'ala. So that is the first point. The next one, I usually, when I give a khutbah in the masajid, I give this reminder to the parents. There's an ayah in the Quran, in Surah Al-Baqarah 191, that says, Al-fitna ashaddu min al-qatl. I have shivers down my back. Why? Al-fitna ashaddu min al-qatl. To cause trouble, to cause persecution, to cause fitna, to cause, instability is worse than killing. So to make people's lives hell or horrible, it's worse than killing. And some of the ulama of tafsir, the mufassirin, they look at this ayah, they looked at it and they said, if you are a parent and you misguide your children, it is as if you killed them. Because what's worse? I have no kids, or I have kids but they cause trouble in the land. Obviously it's not about quantity. We don't all need 11 kids, we need quality. If you could have quality at 11, do it, inshallah. But we need to have quality over quantity, inshallah ta'ala. And of course, Islam is practical. We can have preferences. I want someone who speaks my language, no problem. I want someone who is certain things. But sometimes, even from my own country, I don't like to, speak about other people's country too much, but I know there's similar things. People will say, I'm from this country, I don't want someone else from a different caste, from the same country. Or I don't want someone who is whatever, sub-ethnicity. In my own country, I heard when I traveled back, they said, imagine Hamilton and Castor. They said the people of Stony Creek, they're no good. I heard stuff like this, like that, within that vicinity. Or the people on Upper James, I swear, there's a road. They said the people of this road are no good. Now we get into Hizbiyah, we get into, the Qabila, a lot of nonsense. So we need to get rid of these things. Because again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is He going to say the black skinned people here, and the brown skin and the white skin? No. Actually, our skin has nothing to do with getting ourselves in Jannah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from this. So we need to, of course, be practical. One of my family members is a sheikh in a masjid, and he deals with maybe 60 to 100 people that come to him a month. 60 to 100 people for marriage. And sometimes he comes to me frustrated and he says, you know what? In the whole month, not one person has asked me about deen, about the religion and character. It's all, where does he work? What does he do? What's his ethnicity? So we realize these things don't matter as much. I remember someone came to him one time and said, I have a daughter, I'm looking to get her married, and the guy is a waiter, for context, which is nothing wrong with that, but for context in the story, he's a waiter with no formal education, or post-secondary. So my family member said, you know what, I have a guy for your daughter, he's educated, he's a civil engineer. I forget the school, he said something like, he went to McMaster or Brock, and he has good religion. And the father said, oh, not U of T? He didn't go to one of those top tier schools? So subhanAllah, sometimes we create excuses, and then when we're 35, we realize, now people say I'm too old. So every marriage I know, people had pushback. But you need to realize that birrul walidain, to listen to your parents and obey them, is in the halal. And if you want to disagree with them on the haram or differences of opinion, then find a third party if you can't talk to them, inshallah ta'ala. And as we know, another friend, he said, I want to get married. The father said, you need to have a house and a car for you and a car for my wife for the image. Not practical, so he didn't get married to that girl. So we see a lot of these things, or a mahar. My friend got a mahar, which he got a loan for. And he's probably paying payments on the mahar, the dowry, for about 3 years now. Why? Because just so most of you know, the industry standards, the industry rate, as we say, is about 5 or 10,000. That's around average. But sometimes they think, because I'm from this country, it's 20 or 30 or 40. And remember, if you are a millionaire, it's okay. Give 100,000 to halal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not set a limit. And they tried to set a limit, but remember, in Islamic history, we know it was cancelled because you cannot set a limit. But for the average person, it's not reasonable. Because the value of, my dear sister, is not your dowry. Your dowry is not, I was 30,000, this girl was 35, I'm worth more. It's not. Al-mahr qaleel, baraka kathir. The low mahr that makes it easy for people, there's more blessing. But if your husband, mashallah, tabarakallah, is wealthy, no problem. Islam does not block that. And for your parents, they say you need a space, you need this, you need that. I have 30 pages of notes I need to go over. But if you have a basement in your parents' home, if you have a bedroom where you stayed at growing up, let this be your starting point. Please don't make excuses, my brothers and sisters, because people are saying, I can't get married because I don't have a place. But then they look at pornography, they look at certain things, and I know you guys, your brothers are better than most others, and you sisters, but a good number of you will look at pornography, and you might think, are people really, it's high, at least in the outside world, I don't know about us, but it's 80-90%, which is crazy. And we know divorce is what? 55%. But let me give you, like a bushra, a glad tidings. When you have the same religion, when you have the same belief of how to raise kids, when you think the same about how you're going to deal with money, and you are on a similar wavelength, do you know what the divorce rate is? Around 9 or 10%. Amazing. So 55 is just everyone. But when you get someone with the same belief, you're on the same page, then divorce is very low. And you guys, my brothers and sisters, you're Canadian. You're Canadian. Whether you like it or not, you're here. Why are you here? And whether your parents say you're going to go back or not, you're all one people. You're not Pakistani and Somali and Sudani and whatever. That's still your background, but your mentality is from here. And Ali radiallahu anhu, why do I say this? Ali radiallahu anhu said, do not raise your children for how you were raised, because they were born in a different time. So this realization needs to be there, because of course times are different. The halal still stays the halal, we don't change these things. So in the second khutbah, we'll go over some more points. I know I don't have much time. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu ala sayyidina al-mursaleen. So just a quick point. The Prophet ﷺ, what does he say? In the hadith in Bukhari, he said that for the men, what should you look for? You can look for, remember the word, you can look for someone who has beauty, good lineage, wealth, and deen. Those are the criteria you can. But another hadith comes where the Prophet ﷺ said, don't marry a woman just for her beauty, because it'll destroy her. And don't marry a woman just for her wealth, because she's going to, of course, have certain problems and arrogance and stuff like that. We all know and I'll give the hadith for the sisters as well, what to look for. And I'll end this on 2 points. The example you've all heard of. A girl has deen, or we'll start with the girl because this is the hadith, and then we'll get to the sisters. A girl has deen, she's number one. And what happens? She has beauty, she's a 10. She has good lineage, good family, she's 100. 100 out of 100. And she has wealth, 1,000, amazing. Take the deen away, you have 3 zeros. Enjoy. There's nothing there. There's no substance. You will be happy, I promise, you will be happy for the first couple months. But then when you look around and you say, what are my kids going to be? Am I going to make the next Salahuddin Ayyubi? Am I going to make the next Abu Hanifa? Radiallahu anhu? Am I? Or am I going to make the next TikTok star? May Allah protect us. So why do I say this? And for the sisters, the hadith from the Prophet ﷺ, because these are our goals. Forget the temporary, I need new shoes, I need this. My car makes this, tuk-tuk sound whenever I turn it on. These will be fixed, these are not important. What does the Prophet ﷺ advise us to look for? And even Musa alayhi salam, the story we all know of. Khuluq and deen. Khuluq and deen. You need to be trustworthy, you need to have deen. And there's a qawi and ameen, sorry, and we'll get to the qawi, strong. And I know I need to end. Qawi. My sisters, you need to look for a man who is qawi, strong. Strong in his ability to protect you, to provide financially, to know his deen. And ameen. You can't have strength without being trustworthy, because the father is going to give the hand. So trustworthy, he needs to be trustworthy. Khuluq, he needs to have character, and deen, the religion. So these are the things that need to happen for us to be cohesive. I've seen so many brothers and sisters turned away because I make $35,000 a year and they make, this guy's a doctor or whatever it is. Look for a brother or sister who has potential. Don't look for the lazy person, who maybe has a good job and he's tall and 6'2" and all that. Half of them are 5'11". But what are we saying? Look for the person who is, I'm just joking, our brothers and sisters. Look for the person who has khuluq and deen, qawi. And for you, my brother and sister, for you, my brothers, the deen first, then the other things. Doing this will solve our ummah. At least a large percentage, because our kids are going to be good, our families are going to be good, we're not going to be plagued with, trouble and all of this. So I have a lot more to talk about, but just keep this in mind. Forget about the cultural norms, and I have to, do a mendi and obesity and bankruptcy and all that stuff. I'm not actually saying, and this will be my last point, I love these cultures, my culture, your culture, but within reason. You have the money, go do it. You don't have the money, don't spend $70,000. Within reason. You can do a nikah for 500, you can do a nikah walima for 1,000, 10,000. If I have the money, 50,000, enjoy. But my brothers and sisters, we need to come back to the deen to solve our problems. And this was just on the issue of marriage. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the best in the dunya. Allahumma hdina fi man hadayt, wa afina fi man afayt, wa tawallana fi man tawallayt. وبارك لنا فيما أعطيت ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the best in the dunya and the best in the akhirah. Allow us to get married to someone who is pious, and if we are already married, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fix our relationship with our spouses and grant us the best in the dunya. Keep us away from the akhirah, keep us away from the punishment of the akhirah, which is the hellfire, and grant us Firdaus al-A'la so we can be in a similar gathering in Firdaus al-A'la. قوموا إلى صلاتكم يرحمكم الله. Please take the rose and follow the line. مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا أرأيت الذي يكذب بالدين فذلك الذي يدع اليتيم ولا يحض على طعام المسكين فويل للمصلين الذين هم عن صلاتهم ساهون الذين هم يراءون ويمنعون الماعون الله سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده